center of the universe, and the Thrive15.com world headquarters.
Let's go!
Presenting the world's only business school without the BS, with optometrist and entrepreneur Dr. Robert Zellner, and the former Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year in your ear, Clay Clark. It's the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170. 3, 2, 1.
All right, boom, 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 and boom. Welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former U.S. SBA Entrepreneur of the Year, sent here on a mission to get you into a great financial position. And in the box, it is always ecstasy when we have, well, whenever we have an opportunity to be next to Z. Dr. Zellner, how are you today, my friend?
I am fantastic, and the Thrive Nation wants to know.
They want to know.
They want to know. We have brought it up
Want.
on shows past, and for those of you that are listening live, thank you very much. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, what? It's a podcast. Yes,
What?
free of charge. You can subscribe to it, and you can share it around the world, Clay. You can share. You can share it around, and you can listen to it
On the internet? Are you talking about the internet?
Yeah, that little thing. Thank you, Al
Can I
Gore.
access that through my
Thank
MP3
you.
player?
Thank you, Mr. Gore.
All right.
Anyway, the world wants to know how your son, the budding entrepreneur,
Yes.
which we've had a couple of cage fights over his career and career choices, and you being the limiting membrane in his business, and it's been a little bit of a mess. And so now we're transitioning into the fall. And so, what's going on with his business? He's 10 years old.
Well, right now,
Aubrey.
we have on one side of the road, we have about 4 acres, and on the other side of the road, there's like 14 acres. So it's about 18 acres, and he needs to maintain about 6 of those acres. So he's out there mowing on his Husqvarna riding lawnmower, and he cashed in this week. We owed him, some money, and I make him. Basically, I force savings. I guess I'm like the man. I'm like
You're
the
like
government.
you're like the government.
Yeah. And I made him
You
save.
know better than
I
you're
made
looking
him
at the
save.
man.
Well, I just said, hey, you have to save at least 4 months of your income. So you have to delay gratification so you can buy something
Ooh.
significant.
Oh my!
And he said, Dad, I want to go ahead and cash it in. I want to get some stuff. So we went to Guitar Center. Justin, you've seen this, and he just bought these awesome Mackie speakers.
Oh, yeah.
Then I bought him an extra mixer, but he basically now has cashed in all of his money, and he now has a complete DJ system that would rival that of most professional disc jockeys in Tulsa.
Well,
And he's been doing that a while. He's worked his way up.
He
To
keeps
starting
adding
gig.
more equipment.
He actually started with a little, just a CD player boombox.
Yep.
He started that, and then he just slowly worked his way up, and now he's got an impressive
He
setup.
DJ'd Family Night, Justin. You saw him.
He was rocking it.
He's on the microphone now too.
wow,
He's announcing stuff.
Did he get reimbursed for that, or was that just kind of a?
Well, we didn't pay him for that. What we did is we chose to really undervalue his performance.
Well, it's a
We chose to
no-brainer.
take advantage of it.
Try it before you buy it.
Decided to feed him that
Right.
night, right? Decided to feed him that
We
night.
decided to feed him that night. But his DJ, he's basically taken his earnings from the landscaping career and turning that into his DJ business. And I'm not kidding. He's probably got maybe $6,000 or $7,000 of DJ gear now. He's rounded up, and he's 10.
Do you think he's doing that, following your footsteps, or is it just something in your Clark DNA that just says I need to play music for people I don't know and get them excited about that?
I
'cause that's
think
what a DJ
the
does,
thing
right?
about Aubrey is he gets entrepreneurship at the core level, which is really finding a problem people have and charging them for a solution that they want. And I think
Bingo.
he gets it. I think he actually wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's just funny, but like I'll get back from work, and I'm maybe wanting to relax. And he's like, Dad, do you want a back massage? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, for $5, I'll give you
Nice.
and I'm like, hey, listen here. I'll pay you $1 every like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But he's always working an angle.
One thing I've noticed, and for you entrepreneurs listening right now, this is something you're going to have to pick up on as well, is paying attention and listening. Because your guests, your clients, they'll tell you everything you need to know. And little Aubrey has been just watching you, Clay, for years, right? And so he just picks up. The dude has got an amazing memory, and he's got an amazing sense of humor. So he's witty. I don't know if you noticed that or not,
he's
but his
extremely
little
funny.
jokes going in, and it kind of got my mom, your mother-in-law, riled up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And he knows how to do that because he's extremely smart and witty, and his memory is just great. And so he's a great listener. You don't even think he's listening. So entrepreneurs, you're going to have to be good listeners as well as leaders.
What's hilarious is this commentary with Steve Currington, and I wish I could quote something, but he'll ask Steve questions that are passively, aggressively, attackingly, sarcastically funny.
Yeah.
And then so he and Steve go back and forth. And Eric, I don't know if you've ever seen these conversations, but I'm always watching the two of them sort of. And he's 10, and he tries to outwit Steve, who I believe is like 38.
Yeah, Steve is he's actually coming to me and been like, dude, Aubrey said this, and that was so funny. I was trying not to just crack up.
It's just so funny.
So Motown Tulsa is does he have other outside clients?
Right now he has 2 outside clients, but the thing is we're heading into the fall. And so I've just told him, man, you got to save up the nuts for the winter. Winter is coming. You're a squirrel. You're a business squirrel.
Yeah.
Save up the nuts. So now we're going inside now. We're DJing, and he's doing the janitorial work here. It's his third revenue source over here at Thrive. And so he does all the janitorial work.
All right.
And we're trying to get his quality standards up to the level they need to be at. But he's getting better.
Because I know that for a while you kind of had your thumb on Motown Tulsa. I mean, you kind of had to. You kind of had your thumb on it.
He needs to have a driver. You know, I mean, he needs someone. He's 10. He can't drive his own vehicle, and so he's like, Dad, hey, I picked up Robert Redmond's lawn, and I'm going. You picked up Robert Redmond's lawn?
That's 40 minutes away.
Doesn't he live in Midtown? He's like, yeah. We need to get out there, and we've got one in Broken Arrow, and then Grandma needs hers. I'm like, what are you doing? And then he's talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor wants us to mow the lawn. So we got 4 on the same day. I'm like, that's my whole Sunday, man. Man.
Oh man, if the Patriots are playing, that's what
I'm saying. It's unethical. Now today we're talking about if you're so good at solving a problem that maybe you decide you need outside capital, so you find a partner. Or maybe you don't have the capital you need, so you find a partner. Or maybe you feel like, man, you're good at accounting, I'm good at sales, now I'm going to have a partner. Maybe you're an optometrist and you team up with another one, now you have a partnership. And this is the question we've had so much this week. I feel like it would be wrong of us to not address it, is we've had so many of you email us and ask us, how do you enter into a partnership and how do you manage the partnership once you're in it? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a notable quotable, and I'm going to tee up a couple rules, and I want to have Dr. Z break it down. So here's the notable quotable from Ben Horowitz, the man who built a $1.6 billion business that he sold to Opsware. And he says, every time I read a management or self-help book, I find myself saying, that's fine, but that really wasn't the hard thing about the situation. The hard thing isn't setting a big, hairy, audacious goal. The hard thing is laying people off when you miss the goal. The hard thing isn't hiring great people. The hard thing is when those great people develop a sense of entitlement and start demanding unreasonable things. The hard thing isn't setting up an organizational chart. The hard thing is getting people to communicate within the organizational chart that you just designed. The hard thing isn't dreaming big. The hard thing is waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat when the dream turns into a nightmare. And so partnership, here are the 2 rules. Here are the things that will kill every partnership, and I want you to break them down. Communication and expectations. So how you communicate and you living up to your expectations and or failing to meet those expectations. So Z, let's start with communication. How can communication, let's say someone partnered with you, how could communication with you, where could it get weird with you in terms of communication?
Well, so many times I see 2 dudes or 2 ladies, and they're talking, and they're maybe in the same life thing about we need to do something. We need to take charge of our life. And did you see what Billy did down the road? I mean, we can out Billy. But the point is, you're talking to someone, you're bouncing an idea off of them. You're talking about a problem, and you think you have a solution. You think you might make money, and that person looks at you and says, "I'm thinking the same thing."
Oh my gosh! So you're wanting to start a gym? I want to start a gym too.
Yeah.
We could all start a gym. We could call it Globo Gym.
And there's something, or the 2 of us, Jim, and there's something about that's kind of, it makes you feel good. I mean, now you're like, okay, I'm not the only crazy person in the room.
Your name is Jim. It's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Oh.
It's over a cup of coffee, man. You flesh out the whole. We'll go with the gym idea, okay? We'll go with the Globo Gym.
Globo Gym.
Globo.
The Purple Cobras.
Yeah, we see a black light, so the whole thing glows, and we also do bowling, so we call it Globo Gym.
Global Gym.
But the point is, and then all of a sudden, you guys have a great conversation. You have a 2-hour lunch, which normally is only about 45 minutes.
We'll take some more bread.
We'll take and then pretty soon you the next time you have a meeting, all of a sudden you go, yeah, and we're going to do, and you're like, no, that's not what we said.
No, we did say that.
We did. No, I specifically said that we were going to do it in South Tulsa.
Here's what happened is you said it, but I just felt the need to make a little change after we talked about it because I didn't agree.
No, because there's something funny that happens in communication, and that is that when I say something, you don't always hear what I think I just said.
What's he saying?
What
do you mean by that?
What? That sounds funny.
Why is he whispering?
Because what happens is that communication is not all about the words you're saying, and so therefore, whenever you're just doing verbal communication, a little gets lost in translation.
An example: Z, you're looking beautiful.
Okay, and what that really means is, hey, I need $12 to go buy a foot long.
Or, Z, you're looking beautiful?
That means I don't need $12, but I am a little hungry, maybe just a Snickers.
Yeah, there's that kind of that thing, the way you say things, how you say things.
Same exact words.
Same exact words, but how you say things. If you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, it gets weird.
And you just demonstrated that. Thank you very much.
I've thought about that all
well,
week.
Well done, well played.
Yeah, nice.
So what happens is that you start off, and the next thing you know, before it even gets going, you have hurt feelings. Kind of like, I thought I was going to be the boss.
And also just the actual technical way. Like, don't people wear you out who text you constantly?
Yeah, yes, they do.
I mean, for you personally, if you're partner with somebody and they text you 5 times a day, does it make you crazy?
Oh, I mean, it depends on what they're texting about, and it depends. The ones that make me crazy are the ones that text you like 12 times when that could have been one text, and so it's like, ding.
Let me ask you, so if someone's partnering with you in particular, and they want to stay in good graces with you, what's the acceptable number of times per week, maximum, they should communicate with you?
Well, it depends on the phase of the business and what's going on. But
the business is in orbit.
Okay, the business is in orbit and doing well. I mean, you might, we might touch once a day.
Once a day is kind of a max.
Well, once a day is probably a nice number. Hey,
but I mean, like
just checking in.
Like 7 times a day is like, whoa.
Yeah, that's way too much.
Okay,
now it drives me a little crazy. But communication. The point is that when you're sitting down and you're forming this company, until you get things in writing, it's in black and white, all the verbal communication you gets a little twisted.
Now, expectations. This is the next thing I want to pick your brain on. And then we come back from the break. I want Eric Chupp and Justin to ask you any questions possible about partnerships or share with you their experience about this. Because the expectation. Now, this is something I see. Expectations are, as an example, you and I are partners with Thrive. And so we match each other dollar for dollar. So we've talked about this. That's what we do. And so it's something that we do, and so we've talked about it. It is an expectation, and so we do that. And so then when we don't need to put in money anymore, then we'll start to share revenue. But it's a thing of like the expectation was set, but then one partner says, and not in our case, but a lot of times I see it, I know I'm supposed to put in money, and I know I agreed to, but I did buy a boat. And you could see how with the boat it's tough right now.
Yeah, I mean,
and so I need you to double up this week, so we can make payroll. And then you're it gets weird. So Z, how often does the expectations getting screwed up cause a problem?
A lot. And so far in marriage, it's about hitting about 50 some odd %. I mean, what happens is that whenever you go into a partnership, and we'll just use an example of a marriage, and not to get too deep down that rabbit trail.
Why does he always get so deep?
Why does he get so deep in the rabbit trails? But the point is that the dude's sitting up there taking his vow, and he's got an expectation. And he probably hasn't expressed it. He probably hasn't talked about it because most don't. But it's in his mind. He just assumed.
We're just going to be engaging in a great relations
how
every
would she
day,
not know what I'm
day.
expecting? And then she's got one, too. She's like, oh, man, he's been so awesome. He's brought me fresh flowers every week. He's been opening the doors for me. I mean, she has these wonderful expectations herself.
He will go on long walks in the park every day, every minute. And he'll talk about how he felt about the long walk for 2 hours after the walk.
Yes, as he's taking the rose petals and lining them down the hallway.
Stay tuned. It's the Thrive Time Show on the radio. Stay tuned. Business Coach.
Celebrate your Americanism and listen to the Thrive Time Show.
The new phone book's here! The new phone book's here! 873 Johnson Maven R. I'm somebody now! Millions of people look at this book every day! This is the kind of spontaneous publicity, your name in print, that makes people! I'm in print! Things are going to start happening to me now.
Oh, Dr. Z, do you remember the first time you saw your name in the phone book, man? Wasn't that awesome?
It was awesome.
I mean, did you cry? Did you write down that moment in a journal and say, this is the moment that I am somebody. My name is in the phone book.
Clay, you have to be careful because the airwaves are open to youngsters, and there's a lot of people out there that
whippersnappers.
There's a lot of people out there that are just that are like their brains are kind of blowing up right now, going, "What is a phone book? What's a book?
Why is that phone book
And
on
what
the
is a
wall,
phone?
bro?
Our phones used to be in books,
Bro.
What is going on,
Bro.
with a phone book?
I've spent my entire day ridding my entire office
you
of
just
gluten
Google-
and the stuff that touched the gluten, man, because it
Don't
could
you
kill
just
me.
Google that, man?
Is that the original name of a smartphone? A phone book?
I'm sorry. While you were talking about phone books, I don't even know
Oh,
what that
those are
word
those
means.
big phones. Oh, you guys used to carry those big phones you'd carry, right?
Right, bro. Hey, is that like an app? Was that like a big app, or what was that? It was like a metaphorical book?
Is that, yeah, it's like, you
Paper?
just Googled, right, man?
Dude, why did they recycle? Okay. So the thing-
I do
You remember that.
and I remember when it came out because the yellow, here's the move.
Here's the move.
Here's the move.
Here's the move.
You're even old enough to know this.
Here's the move. I swear.
But
It's the
you,
move. I know what we got.
because you always, there was always a cat and mouse game back in the day. And the game was, did you make your Yellow Page ad large enough? Because it was all alphabetical, but they would put them in sizes. So if you did a full page, you'd be before the half page. If you did a half page, you'd be before the quarter page. And that'd be before the eighth page.
Can I tell you the shadiest Yellow Page move I ever did that was just super effective?
Yes.
I took-
Yeah.
I took my.
I think I know this, but go
I
ahead.
took my competitor. I looked at his ad, and I realized the first year I did my ad, it didn't work very well. And I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take his exact words and one up him on everything.
On everything.
So it was like he was established in like 1987. So I put conceived in 1980 because that's when I was born.
Yeah.
And he put like over 100,000 songs, and I put like over 200,000 songs.
Oh, yeah.
And he said like professional lighting, and I put like something like elite professional lighting. I just everything I did, and then I took my head and I put it on a big head. I enlarged it so it looked like a caricature.
You enlarged your head. That's hard to imagine.
And then I put the caption, America's Most Humble Man, under it. And I
Yes.
got people laughing. I got a lot of deals, a lot of hate from the competitors, but it worked, man.
It worked, but that was the move. And I remember that phone book would come out, and you'd be like, "Did I get it big enough this year? Right?
Right.
Right?
Now, here's the thing: is
Did they get it spelt right, or is it in the right spot? I mean,
Well, see, here's the deal: is we were not partners. My competitors and I, we weren't
Yeah.
partners. And so, as we were talking about today, how to enter into partnerships, we were not partners. So I didn't care if I pissed them off because I didn't want to keep the relationship together. Because I didn't have a relationship. I wanted to beat them like a drum.
In fact, if you were not probably rubbing the rhubarb and irritating them a little bit, irritating them, you probably weren't competing like you should have competed in business, right?
Right. Yes. This is the thing, Thrive Nation, is that when you have a partnership, though, you're gonna be competitive and make it happen. But when you have a partnership, you don't want to be competitive with each other. You know what I'm saying? So let's kind of go down these. Chuff, you see the list. We have the questions this week from the Thrivers. You've coached a lot of clients. Is there any particular of these 12 partnership-related questions that came in this week that you go, you know what? I've seen this. I want to get Z's take on this.
Yes, actually, there is. This one right here, it says, you have a partner who doesn't pull their weight. Like doing their job, documenting items, staying organized. So, how's the best way to deal with that when a partner in your business is not doing what they said they would do or what they're supposed to do?
Now, let's start with you. If someone's not pulling their weight, and Justin, I want to any one of these you can hit. Any one. These are any one, or you can maybe share your experience as the founder of Elephant in the Room, how you've dealt with this, because you and I are partners, and there's teammates, and there's different expectations. But let's go with this first one, Z. So you have a partner who isn't pulling their weight. How do you handle it?
Well, here's the thing you've got to understand, Shep, Clay, Justin, J Diggity Dog,
Nathan,
Thomas.
and all you Thrivers out
Pedro.
there is that partners wear multiple hats in a business for the most part. Now, sometimes you can have what we call a silent partner, which is the person who's basically an investor. And that means they don't work in the business.
They don't work
hence
in the
the term silent.
Shh, 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 shh. Zip it.
Zip it. I got
Zippy,
zippy long stockings.
Zippy.
Oh, very good.
Zip it good.
And so, short of it, if you are the person that has the most, you're the manager, you have the control. If you have control of the company, and so now you have a partner that is what we call a minority partner.
Are you talking about partners that are not Caucasian?
No. I'm talking about partners that have less stock than the majority.
I'm just trying to keep it
rule of
politically
order.
correct. Back to
Well,
you.
thank you. And now your political correctness break is over.
This just did.
Brought to you by Twinkies, where you can always get two.
Unless you want 3.
So the thing about it is that you have to look at them as an employee at some point. Like I have a lot of times when I would buy a business, the gentleman that ran it, I would give them some sweat equity into it. So they would in essence become a partner of mine.
Right.
Okay, you follow me? But they also wore a different hat because they were the general manager manager of the business also. Okay.
So they have some equity and they have a job.
Bingo. And so that's what I'm reading from this question is if they're not pulling their weight, that would infer to me that they have a job to do in the business. Correct, Chad?
Right.
Okay. So then you treat them like any employee. Just because they own some stock. I mean, if I buy Walmart stock and I go in there and raise a fit about something, they treat me like a customer. And if I go, but I own Walmart stock, I'm a partner.
Okay. Wait a second.
You can't get it out of balance.
So this right here, though, that would imply. So question number 6 we had from the Thrivers was, what if you have two partners who have equal ownership? So let's talk about this. I'm going to give you an example. Like with Elephant in the Room, and Justin, you and I have had our punches, our hugs, our high fives, our ups, our downs, because we're partners, right? But you are the guy who's in charge of the experience, right? So like with as far as the decor, the atmosphere, I don't recall ever going in there and giving you feedback on that, have I?
You may have, but I probably wasn't listening. But
But I mean, seriously, I don't think I have as far as like the experience for the haircuts.
correct.
But
So-
like the money, I get into it.
Oh yeah. So, for instance, our partnership with Elephant in the Room. There's 3 of us. We all have our lane.
Yeah.
And so we stay in our lane. Now we have with 3, it's easy. Majority rules.
Right.
So even if there's something I want to do on the ground level, which is in the experience, which is my lane, I can get trumped by my 2 other partners.
Because you guys are a third?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably 34. They're 33 each. Am I saying that correctly or not? Or who's
think
34?
3, infinity, and then it just goes out. It's weird, but 33.333.
That's just weird.
We
So
work with
there's a
God.
somewhere
It's
out
gotta
there-
be infinite
even.
numbers.
It's gotta
Somewhere
be-
out there in the black hole is a small portion of Elephant in the Room men's grooming lounge.
We'll give you 0.0001%.
Well, you know what? Because I know a lot of guys, what they'll do is they say, hey, we want to be equal, but we don't want to be 50-50. So what they'll do is they'll do 49-49. They'll get a third party that's a good friend and they both agree on, that then takes 2% of it. And then that way, if they can never agree, then they have someone that they both agreed is a wise, educated, knowledgeable person of what's going on to help break
That's
the
why
tie.
we gave that to a homeless man.
That's why we gave that to a homeless man. Problem is we can't find him, but we need a vote on Tuesday.
Barry, wake up. Quit drinking.
Does anybody know where he is?
need your feedback.
But this thing back going to about you have 2 partners have equal ownership, and the problem with that, the problem with that, Z, I want to because this is an issue. And I hear this all the
You
time.
got to have a chief, though.
Z,
you can't set up a partnership like that, folks. You can't. And I know when you're sitting around coffee talking about
But
that
we're
business you're going to
brothers.
start about Globo Gym.
we're brothers.
You just got to address it up front. Someone's got to be the majority. Someone's got to be the hammer.
I care equally about us. We're related. We're neighbors. We're cousins. We're
Yes,
cousins
and
and we're neighbors.
we thought of Globo Gym at exactly the same time.
We're Amish, so we're very closely related. Stay tuned. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Turn that button.
Welcome to the Thrive Time Show, a show for the enemies of average.
You know, people are not born with big thighs. You know, you're born a fabby little lazy baby. You know, it takes work to look like this.
Oh, Z, do you remember Hans and Franz from Saturday Night
Hans
Live?
and
Wasn't
Franz.
that we are here to pump you up? Z, do you remember that
It's just,
skit?
of course I did. I grew up. That was my culture. That was my jam. That was my thing.
I'm sorry. I should have asked you. Are you an American?
Yes, and yes to all those questions. You just fired off. At me.
Now, today we're talking about how to enter into a partnership, and specifically, we're on this part about when you have 2 partners that have equal voting rights or equal ownership. Because what happens is we laid out the scenario. What happens when you have a partner and they're not pulling their weight? Well, the issue is you can't enforce anything if you both have equal voting rights. So I want to start with Justin on this. I want to have Justin, you're the founder of Elephant in the Room Men's Grooming Lounge. Full disclosure, we're partners. But I want you to kind of share what that means to you. And Z, I want to get your feedback on it. Let's just kind of work through that as a team.
Yeah, so if you don't have an odd number of partners like we do, so you'll get 2 things. You might have the same ownership as far as the percentage goes, but you've got, like Marcus Malone says, you've got to, say we're 50-50 partners, but I'm 100% in charge, and get that written off. So that means, you want them maybe invested with their money and their time, but then you're going to then be calling the shots. You got to have that one chief. It's awkward. It gets weird when you try to have 2 leaders and then one person's like, you stepped on my toes and I'm offended. And, so with Elephant, one thing we had to do is, because we got 3 alphas and when we get together our board meetings and go out to Denver and things, It's intense.
It is intense.
It's intense.
It is
but I'd
intense.
have it no other way because
Right.
we are strong individuals and we get floor time. But you can see when we have someone in there that's not an alpha, and I'm not going to call names, but
Right.
what happens is that person and
Usually will break down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to just share this with you. If you're listening here you have to have some kind of rule. Now, for Elephant in the Room, we have a rule of 2/3. So I'm just going to give you an example. Justin is clearly in charge of the experience, okay? And I'm in charge of marketing, getting customers in the door, right? So if he doesn't nail the experience, then no matter how many customers I get through the door, it doesn't matter. And then John's job is franchising, which basically means he has the systems. He's grown over 500 OxyFresh locations, and that's what he's doing with us. And so it's a system, and we don't always agree. And this idea that you can have a consensus on every scenario is just not real. And that's why this next one, Z, I want to get your take on this. There's so many thrivers, and I hate to bring it up because I know, Z, when I bring this up, when I bring up this topic, somebody is going to lose their mind. Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah.
Let's lose
Here
our
we go.
mind.
Which is pretty much every topic you bring up, by the way.
But I'm saying somebody's going to it's going to be very uncomfortable because you're going to
Okay.
be in the car with this person. Your spouse
Yes.
is your partner. Your spouse is your partner. So what happens is your spouse becomes the partner because you're married to them. So what happens is you were not partners with the spouse previous to the marriage. You want to work with me? My wife and I, we started DJ Connection together. So I don't know if I could have done it without her, but she's always been the accounting part of my business. So
Okay.
we started it together. But I see a lot of times you have a business and all of a sudden you marry somebody, and now Z, because Eric over here married somebody, and even though we were partners, just he and I, now that you're married to somebody, now all of a sudden they're kind of a pseudo partner almost.
Yeah,
Because
obviously.
they chime in with their feedback, but yet I don't recall putting them on the operating agreement.
Well, let me say something to that because someone right now is listening, like, you know what? Why I married someone and I didn't have a business and I launched a business and it's my time, it's my energy, and I didn't have a written contract. And you know what? Clay and I and our partner, we have a written contract. And what happens? It speaks for us. It's in writing. It's in writing. It's so important, guys. And you may be like, you know what? I didn't get anything to write with my spouse. Well, guess what? The great state of Oklahoma already did for you, so it's taken care of. And when you inked it on the marriage agreement, that took care of that. So it's already taken care of for you. But if you don't think you're in partnership, you 100% are.
You are. So what Justin's saying is, if you marry somebody and you have a business, you're now in partnership with this person. But see, explain the dynamics of it. You and a buddy are partnered, and now they marry somebody, and all of a sudden you're now kind of pseudo partnered. You know what I'm saying? That weird tension where you find yourself partnered with somebody that you don't recall involving in the business, but now they're married to this person, and now you're getting that feedback loop.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen it so many times, and I've seen so many good businesses really go under because of it. And it's the infighting, it's the control, it's the we should be going here instead of over there scenarios that happen. And a lot of times it's always that new dynamic that comes into it. And a new spouse is one of those dynamics that comes into it. Sometimes a business will bring on they need a capital infusion, so they bring on a venture group. They bring on somebody else. They bring in somebody that brings a bunch of money to the table.
A bunch of money.
And then they think, I just dumped a lot of money.
A truckload of money.
A truckload of money.
A huge amount of money.
Business.
I brought in a huge amount of money.
And if you think I'm going to not sit back and, question your every move, you don't know me very well.
You
right?
don't know me because I'm not going to just put massive, copious amounts of money into something without giving you constant feedback.
And that's one of the core reasons why I would never hire a key person in any of my organizations without meeting their spouse first. Because you meet someone, you can know a lot about their spouse, and then you meet the spouse. And so, like my doctors, for instance, I would never hire a doctor until I sat down and spent some time with the two of them and their spouse, Sometimes it's a lady, sometimes it's a dude, and take them to dinner, spend some time with them, and really get to know them. And because it's always a package deal. And so, the question really, what you just said is, what happens when the package changes? And that's a tough thing in business because all of a sudden you're getting along well with your partner, life's good. I mean, he's got plenty of free time to do the things that he needs to do, or I say free time. And then all of a sudden he gets married, and now all of a sudden, his home life is calling on him, is pulling on him, is demanding more of his time. Oh, they're doing just fine. You don't need to go in on Saturdays anymore. You don't need to do this.
Come on, you don't know Saturdays.
You got your new family.
It's not even biblical. Well, I guess it's Sunday.
5 days a week.
But guys, besides my son Billy wants to play catch with you.
Okay, so here is a really crazy situation. Okay, here's the deal.
Okay.
My wonderful wife actually is how I know you. My wife applied to work for you.
Correct.
And she would come home bragging on your organization.
Well, that's very kind of her.
No, but seriously, she would say, honey, you need to meet this guy. The systems here, I'm telling you, if you could learn the systems, it would really help dj@connection.com. It would help you grow that thing because it was a business that we were profitable, but we were doing maybe 2 to 3 weddings a weekend. And before we sold it, we got to 80 weddings a weekend. And my wife kept coming home going,
That's awesome.
Dr. Z has systems. You need to meet this guy. I'm telling you. And I'm like, nah, he's an optometrist. What could he possibly know? My
He's probably
business
never
is dead.
DJed an event before in his life.
Right. So that's my kind of mindset. Well, then long story short is that when I decided to build DJ Connection, things went great. And when you and I teamed up to do Thrive, my spouse likes you, and my wife is the reason why I know you. So my wife likes you, so my wife's always going, honey, if Dr. Z advised you to do that, then that's what we need to do. So there's always that in the back. So I'll come home, and she'll say, how was today? Whether you like this or not, this is what happens. Your wife will say, or your partner's wife will say, or your partner's husband will say, how was the meeting with Z? And I'll say, this is what he said to do. And she goes, well, if he said to do it, then we need to do it because he has wisdom. That's what she says all the time. It's like the same recording. Now, some people go, oh, well, if Z said to do it, I don't want to do it because all he cares about is the money.
Who's he think
Oh, my
he is?
gosh, money. All he cares about money. So what happens if your spouse doesn't like your partner? See, what do you do like there? If your spouse does not like the partner, what do you do? Do you sleep on the couch? Do you live in a van down by the river? What do you do?
It's a tough deal. I mean, I'm telling you what, it's a very tough deal. It's kind of like what happens if you marry a gal and she doesn't like your best friend.
Ah,
You can't just walk up to him and say, "Hey, don't worry about it.
You got a new best friend.
Be happy."
you tattoo Billy's name on your chest, and it's
I know.
awkward every time that you're
We hit the
making
man
out.
cave every Friday night and drink a 6-pack of Bud Light. I mean, he's my boo. He's my buddy. You know.
Well,
And when we get back, Clay, let's deep dive down into that a little bit.
I
What you
want
can
to
do.
get into it. I want to get into the weeds. Stay tuned to the Thrive Time Business Coach Radio Show. My name's Clay Clark. Stay tuned.
Back to the Business Coach Radio Show. That is so good, it could have made the Eastland Mall successful.
Is there anything that could have made the Eastland Mall successful?
I was just thinking about it.
That
I
thing
was just
was
waiting to hear a
a
little bit more of that
disaster.
song. Actually, I was a little.
See, I'm sorry to cut off Ed, Special Ed. I mean, Mr. Ed. I'm sorry to cut off.
He did a
Mr. Ed.
great. He did a great job in concert here at the BOK Center. By the way.
Did he nail it?
Oh my gosh, he nails it. And you know what? That dude is making more money on a concert than anybody else out there. You know
'Cause it's
why?
just him.
It's just him.
Solo, baby.
He's got a guitar and a loop machine. A box loop machine that he can punch and lay down a chord and then record it
Can
and loop it.
I share with you a Ed Sheeran story that maybe the listeners don't know?
Yes, please.
Here we go. Ed Sheeran was a guy who was committed to his music, and a lot of people are committed to their music. In fact, as you know, there's a lot of very talented musicians listening to our show, and all over Tulsa, there's a lot of great musicians out
A
there.
lot of great music. Yes, there are.
So he decides he's going to move over. He's going to hop across the pond and move to America. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Jamie Foxx is a very, very, very skilled actor and also a great musician.
Very talented man.
He discovers that Jamie Foxx actually has a studio in his house. Now, Jamie Foxx wanted to become famous, and he wasn't famous as a musician. So he tried out for In Living Color, and he was just funny enough to get on the show In Living Color. And he wanted to become famous, but he wasn't famous because he was on In Living Color with Jim Carrey, and it wasn't that big of a show yet. So what he did is he actually started promoting himself as a paparazzi photographer for celebrities, although he had never taken photos before.
Right, okay.
So he begins taking photos of Puff. He finds Puff Daddy at a big event. And he says, "Hey Puff, I'm a celebrity photographer. That's my gift. I'll take photos of you, make you look good, big time. Get that stuff on the internet. Boom, bam. I'm awesome." So Puff's like, "Sure, you work for free. Let's do this." Well, next thing you know, he's taking photos of Puff Daddy for free. Puff Daddy invites him to all the parties, and so Jamie Foxx is like Puff Daddy's personal photographer guy. So he tells Puff, how much money did you spend on that last party you had out in L.A.? Puff Daddy. This is all on the 4-Hour Work Week interview with Jamie Foxx, by the way. You can find it on the 4-Hour Work Week with Jamie Foxx. He says, "Puff, what did you spend on that last party?" Puff Daddy says, "I spent $1 million." He goes, "You spent $1 million on a party?" He goes, "Yes,
Yeah.
but that's how I grow my celebrity, my PR." And he says, "Here's the deal. I think I could have a better party than you for under $1,000. And he goes, "I tell you what, I'll be there if you throw the party." He goes, "Sure." So Jamie Foxx begins inviting celebrities saying, hey, Puff Daddy's going to be there, I'm going to be there, and this person's going to be there. Well, the next celebrity says, well, if Puff's there, I'm there. And he keeps doing this until he has all the A-list celebrities at his house.
Oh, yeah.
And what he does is he pulls Kanye West aside at his house, and he records Kanye West doing a rap lyric, and now he has a song featuring Kanye. He says, Kanye, is it cool if I promote it? He gets in his car, drives all across American radio stations, and gets himself famous as a result of recording Kanye West at a party. That's how Jamie Foxx made it.
He's hustling.
So Ed Sheeran hears the story and realizes this guy's a hustler.
This guy knows. He
understands it.
He knows the thing.
So what he does is he flies to America and he finds his address and shows up at his house and says, can I live with you? And he says, are you serious? He goes, yes, my name's Ed Sheeran, I play. And he goes, okay, what do you play? He opens his guitar and starts playing. He goes, yeah, you can sleep on my couch. That's how Ed Sheeran got famous. So he got famous through Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx starts introducing him to different clubs, different performances. And then Ed Sheeran, through my friend Ryan Tedder with One Republic, got asked to open up for One Republic. That's what you do before you become big. So One Republic used to open up for Maroon 5. Ed Sheeran, through a Jamie Foxx introduction, starts opening up for One Republic. So One Republic concerts, if you Google it, guess who's performing to open up for them is Ed Sheeran. And now the Redhead Wonder has his own album, his own celebrity following, and he is the most talented grinder artist I've ever seen. This guy is a grinder, but it's because he researched how Jamie Foxx did it and thought, you know what? If Jamie Foxx was willing to humble himself to do work for free for Puff Daddy and to throw these ridiculous parties and to become a free photographer and to travel around in his car from radio station to radio station playing his demo with Kanye, I could do it. So he showed up at his house.
Ginger snap.
Living on his house. He had no money. He's like, dude, I just want to live with you. I'll do whatever I need to do. I will pick your kids up from school. I'm just here. And he did his demo, and he's that talented.
Wow, that's an awesome story. It just goes to show you. I mean, there's story after story after story about guys that do what we call an internship. Internship, which basically means you go and you work for nothing. Yeah. And that makes people crazy. It
makes people crazy because
Ryan Tedder, your good friend, did it.
Yes, he worked for free.
He worked at Pottery Barn to pay the phone, to keep his cell phone on.
He worked it for free. He worked for Timbaland, who's a multimillionaire. He doesn't even pay him, so he can intern there to get his career going. Now, this is the thing. We're talking about partnership today, and we have Wes Carter, Tulsa's #1 attorney, in my opinion, legally speaking. And we're talking today about partnership, how to keep a sustainable partnership going. Now, this is the thing. When you marry somebody, and see, let's get into it. This is the weird stuff. When you marry somebody, that person, you three dudes are partners, and now one of the dudes marries somebody. Now, all of a sudden, you're kind of married to who they married. The partnership somehow involves that person. See, how do you deal with it when the spouse of your partner doesn't agree with the partners? When the spouse of the partner, she's not in the team, but she or he, it strongly disagrees with the leadership.
Well, hopefully you have things dialed in when I talk about contractually to where there is a, Robert's Rule of Orders in the sense of, who's going to make the decisions and who has the final say. I mean, even the partners can have disagreements on different things throughout the years, right? That doesn't mean that, you can't continue to mend the fences and to go forward. But what happens is you get that new energy, that new dynamics in. Sometimes you got to have you got to sit down and explain how the cow ate the cabbage. You got to have that little, I used to call them a come to Jesus meeting. But you have to sit down with the people and say, hey, listen, that's your spouse, and she's entitled to her opinion, or he is. But, here's still the way the organization works, and here's how we're going to go forward. And you try to minimize it as much as possible, Wes. But at times it can get ugly.
It does get ugly, and I think setting expectations up front is a huge thing. So when you first come in, you say, hey, look, no matter what happens, you and I make the decisions here if it's two people, not our spouses, not our girlfriends, not our employees. It's you and I.
I want to tee up a really crazy scenario because, Wes, your firm has represented Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes. Just came out in the Tulsa World. You guys are helping out with Mr. Trump, the President of the United States. Winters and King, you guys are getting it done. I mean, you're representing the President of the United States on some kind of advisory board. What are you guys doing with Mr. Trump there?
My partner, Tom, is sitting on a faith council that is talking to Trump about issues important to the faith community.
I was thinking if you guys work with the President of the United States, maybe you're qualified to help out Tulsa business owners. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking through it. But so let me ask you this situation here. You're listening to the show right now, and what happens is you have come into this situation. and this just happened with a client I was working with about 2 years ago. He's a pastor. And his daughter is straight stealing cash from the church, using the church's credit card like a personal credit card. I mean, we're talking north of $6,000. I only found out because their AdWords got denied. They run ads, and the ads got denied.
Yep.
And I said, "Hey, how are you getting denied? How's your credit card getting declined? What's going on?" He goes, "I don't know." He comes back. He goes, "Here's the deal. My daughter is using it to buy all of her expenses. She's moving into a new apartment, and I guess she's been using this." And it happens consistently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you find out your partner is stealing cash, or your partner's daughter, or somebody's stealing cash. How do you, Z, from your perspective, handle it? And I want to get Wes legally, how do you handle it? So first off, Z, when you discover your partner or someone who's using your partner's card, whatever, they're stealing cash, what do you do? Z, what's your first step?
Well, you approach them and you first of all get it to stop. And then, you explain the situation. A lot of times your partner, he probably didn't, I don't know that he had knowledge that his daughter was doing that.
He did not know.
So therefore, you put light on the subject, and then you give your partner the ability to do the right thing. And the right thing is, hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm going to end that. I'll take the card from her. We can maybe even close out that account. It's kind of easy to start up new accounts if it's not the end of the world. And, I have sometimes banks will call me up and say, hey, your contact, your card's been whatever, and we're sending you a new one. Tear that one up. So that happens. But you give your partner the chance to make it right.
Right.
Pay it back, make it right in the jackassery that's going on.
Into the jackassery.
Yeah, and you move on with it. And you go, you know what? That wasn't my partner. That was my partner's daughter. He just got access to the credit card, and that stuff happens, and so you don't hold it against him. It's not like that. Strike one.
Strike
Belly.
one, Belly.
Yeah. Wes, is that what you would counsel, or would you just say would you just litigate right off the bat?
Sue.
I mean, because I know how attorneys are. You guys are just like, let's go file a lawsuit.
And a for-profit is much easier because you have that ability to even it up with distributions. Now, in a nonprofit, you mentioned as a pastor, there's a whole different ballpark.
Pastor.
Nonprofits, you have to report that to the feds and
come back and
get that person to repay it to the nonprofit.
Wow,
So
okay.
It's actually much easier in a for-profit because we can just agree among each other how we're going to make it
It was
right.
about $30,000, by the way.
It's not uncommon. I've had
It's a nice apartment she moved into.
church people buy
Well, the husband didn't have a job.
Oh, well, you
Yeah.
can't blame them then.
I had one. I had a pastor once that got caught about $150,000, 4-wheelers, washers and dryers. The cops showed up and emptied his whole house.
Oh, wait a sec. So you want him to go around with dirty clothes and not be able to ride a 4-wheeler to bond with his children out in the field? I mean, that's just mean.
Now, when we come back, I want to break this down, Z, because we're talking about partnership. What happens when you have a partner who brings their personal issues into every meeting? What do you do when you have a partner who's going through something?
I've never experienced
and
that
they just
before.
bring it into every meeting. They bring the drama into every single meeting. How do you handle it? It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. We're also going to be talking about prenups. Prenups on the Thrive Time Show?
that's
you
just
want to stay
mean.
tuned. It's the Thrive Time Business Coach
Mean.
Radio Show.